Скотами, кто им повисот и свенте рубизгати рочный, ванмуня поечевет им лысты по оптимания шта смотрите не полука в кацвете.
I always told myself that hard work would pay off, that loyalty meant more than money, more than recognition. You're burning yourself out again, Lena said that morning, her voice sharp but tired. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching me sip my black coffee like I'd do it all day. I'll be fine, I said. We need this project done. You know how Richard is about deadlines. She sighed and shook her head. It's never enough, is it? 6 years of marriage, and sometimes I feel like I'm married to your job instead of you. I frowned. Lena, come on. That's not fair. You know I do this for us. You do it for Richard, not us, she shot back, eyes narrowing. I see how you light up when he praises you, and I wonder if any of that energy is left for me. I froze for a second, my fork hovering over scrambled eggs. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but deep down I knew she had a point. I had given Richard Hale, my boss, everything. My nights. My weekends. My vacations, which had slowly disappeared over the years. I remembered the first day he called me into his office. You've got potential, kid, he said, leaning back in his chair, eyes gleaming. Work with me, and I'll make sure you go places. I had nodded eagerly, not realizing how much of myself I'd be handing over. I won't let you down, I said. You won't, he replied, with a half-smile that felt like a promise. And I didn't. I worked late nights. I skipped birthdays. I turned down trips with Lena. I answered emails at midnight. I believed that loyalty and effort would eventually be rewarded. I believed in him. I believed in us. Are you even listening to me? Lena's voice snapped me back. Sorry, I mumbled. I'm listening. Just stressed about work. She shook her head and walked out of the kitchen. The tension in the air followed me like smoke. I knew something was wrong, but I convinced myself it was temporary. Couples fight. I'd fix it. I always fixed things. At work, Richard greeted me like nothing had changed. Morning, Carter. Ready to crush this deadline? Always, I said, forcing a smile, though my mind was still tangled in Lena's words. He nodded and handed me the project folder. I've got a meeting, but I trust you. Don't let me down. I won't, I said. As I walked to my desk, I noticed him speaking in hushed tones with Maya, the HR manager. They glanced at me, then hurried away when I approached. I felt a flicker of unease, but I shoved it aside. Paranoia doesn't help anyone, I told myself. Richard trusted me. He needed me. I trusted him. The day passed in a blur of emails and spreadsheets. Lena called me once, but I ignored it, telling myself I needed focus. I could handle my marriage later, I had work now. At lunch, I sat alone, staring at my sandwich. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena, we need to talk tonight. I swallowed hard. Again? I typed back, sure. What time? Minutes later, Richard appeared at my desk. We're staying late tonight, Carter. Big client presentation tomorrow. I nodded. Of course. You sure you're up for it? You seem distracted. I'm fine, I said, though my throat tightened. I didn't tell him about the text. I couldn't. I couldn't let him see weakness. Weakness has no place here. By 8 p.m., the office was empty except for me. I watched the city lights through the window, thinking about Lena. I remembered our first apartment, tiny and cluttered, but ours. I remembered late-night talks and laughter. I remembered the promises we made. Somehow, the memories felt distant, like someone else's life. Richard appeared in the doorway. "Still here?" I looked up. "Yeah. Just finishing some things." He leaned against the frame. "You do realize you're overworking yourself, right?" "I know," I muttered. "I can handle it." He smiled faintly. "Good. You've got the hunger. That's rare these days." His words hit me in a strange way, pride, fear, obligation, all tangled together. I trusted him more than I trusted anyone, maybe even more than myself. He believed in me. I couldn't let him down. I wouldn't. I glanced at my phone. Another message from Lena, "Don't be late." I typed back, "I'll be home as soon as I can." Richard clapped me on the shoulder. "Keep this up, Carter, and one day, you'll run this place yourself. Don't forget that." I nodded, heart swelling with something like hope. "I won't forget." Later that night, at home, I walked into an empty apartment. The silence was deafening. I poured a drink and sank into the couch, letting my mind wander. Lena's absence felt heavier than the bottles of stress I carried from work. I thought about our arguments, the small cracks in our marriage. I told myself I'd fix it. I had to fix it. But even as I replayed every conversation, every glance, I noticed the small signs I had ignored. The way she stayed late at her office, supposedly busy with projects. The way she smiled too brightly at her phone. The way Richard's office seemed more important to her than our living room. I shook my head. "I'm imagining things," I muttered to myself. "You trust people. That's how life works." Still, a small knot of unease settled in my stomach. I couldn't place it, couldn't name it, but it was there. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the tasks I'd left unfinished at work. I told myself loyalty and effort had carried me this far, surely, they'd carry me further. The night stretched on, and I poured another drink. I called Lena, but she didn't pick up. I left a message, voice tight, "I'm home. Call me when you get a chance." No reply. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Richard's words, Lena's silence. I told myself it was temporary. That tomorrow, everything would be fine. That life was just busy, and people drifted sometimes, but we'd find each other again. But even as I whispered those words into the dark, a quiet fear crept in. Something was shifting. Something I couldn't control. And yet, I trusted both of them. I trusted Richard to guide me, and I trusted Lena to love me. I believed in loyalty. I believed in trust. I believed in us. Little did I know, trust was about to betray me. I never thought a single sentence could break someone's world, but that morning, Lena proved me wrong. "Carter. I want a divorce." I froze mid-sip of coffee, my mug trembling in my hand. "What?" I managed to choke out. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. I said I want a divorce. I set the mug down, feeling it slip from my fingers. My chest tightened, my stomach turned over. "But why? I mean, what happened? Did I do something wrong?" "You did everything right," she said softly, almost pitying me. "It's not you. It's me. I've fallen in love with someone else." My mind went blank. "Someone else?" I repeated, my voice hollow. "Who?" Her eyes didn't waver. "Richard." Time stopped. My ears rang. I felt like the air had been sucked from the room. What are you saying? I whispered, not sure I could process her words. I'm saying he's the one I want to be with, she said, almost casually. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. I want my life back. I laughed, bitter and hollow. You can't be serious. Richard? My boss? Our life, everything we built together, you're throwing it away for him? I've never been more serious in my life, she replied. Her voice was calm, almost cruel in its certainty. You deserve someone who truly loves you, and I need to follow my heart. My legs gave out, and I sank onto the edge of the bed. Follow your heart? You made vows. You promised we'd get through everything together. We've struggled, Lena. Do you know how many nights I skipped just to keep us afloat? She leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. I know. And I'm grateful. But gratitude isn't love. And love. I feel it with Richard. I shook my head, disbelief etched into every line of my face. This isn't happening. It can't be happening. You're lying. I'm not lying, she said, stepping closer. I've never been more honest. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't stay pretending anymore. I'm sorry, Carter. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook. I wanted to scream, to beg, to hit something, but my voice refused. I whispered instead, how long? How long what? How long have you been with him? My voice cracked, betraying the storm inside me. Months, she said simply. Months. Months of laughter, months of dinners, months of kisses she stole from me while I was at work. Months of betrayal I hadn't seen coming. I slammed my fist into the bed. All those nights I worked late for Richard, all those sacrifices, all those missed birthdays and anniversaries, you were planning this behind my back? I didn't plan it to hurt you, she said, almost pleading now. It just happened. I didn't expect to feel this way, Carter. I'm sorry, truly. But I can't go back. I can't undo my feelings. I buried my face in my hands. I trusted you. I trusted him. I gave everything, and you both of you. Her voice softened. Carter, you'll find someone who appreciates your loyalty. Someone who loves you for it. I looked up, eyes burning. You think love is about appreciation? Love is about trust. You destroyed everything. Our life. My life. I can't help how I feel, she whispered. I'm sorry. I stood abruptly. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't bring back the years, Lena. It doesn't undo the nights I cried because I was trying to provide for you. She flinched but didn't back down. I know. I know you gave me your all. And I loved you for it. But not in the way that matters anymore. Richard, he makes me feel alive. I can't ignore that. I felt like I was falling into a void. My chest ached. My throat burned. My brain refused to form coherent thoughts. I could barely stand. And you expect me to just accept this? Just let you walk out? You'll survive, she said softly. You always do. I know you're strong. I laughed bitterly, pacing the small living room. Strong? You call this strong? Watching the person I trusted most in the world throw our marriage away for my boss? Strong is sitting here while your world collapses around you. You'll get through it, she repeated, calm, serene. You're resilient. I can see it in you. But my path, my heart, it's not with you. I slammed my fist into the wall. Pain shot up my arm, but I didn't care. How could you do this? How could you betray me like this? She stepped forward. I'm not betraying you. I'm being honest. I'm following the truth inside me. It's not easy, Carter. It's not painless. I wanted to tell you sooner, but, she trailed off. But what? But months later, you tell me at the worst possible moment? When I trusted you more than anyone? I shouted. She flinched at my tone but didn't back down. I know it's hard. I know it hurts. And I'll regret this for the rest of my life. But I can't lie to myself any longer. I turned away, breathing ragged. My hands shook. My mind was a storm of disbelief, anger, grief, and confusion. I wanted to scream until my lungs gave out. I wanted to punch something. I wanted to break. Carter, please understand. No. I snapped, whirling around. Understand what? That my wife has chosen my boss over me? That my life has been ripped apart in one sentence? How am I supposed to understand this? She looked at me, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't know. I only know that my heart has spoken, and I can't ignore it. I sank into a chair, head in my hands. The apartment felt smaller, tighter, suffocating. You're leaving, I whispered. Just like that. 6 years. Gone. Like I never existed. I never stopped caring about you, she said, voice trembling. I'm not in love with you anymore. And pretending, it's not fair to either of us. I shook my head violently. Fair? Life isn't fair, Lena. But betrayal, this betrayal, it's too much. Too much to process. Too much to survive. You'll survive, she repeated, almost like a mantra. I don't want to survive, I whispered, voice cracking. I want what I had. I want us. She stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. I wish you could. I truly do. But you can't force someone's heart, Carter. And mine, it doesn't belong to you anymore. I felt a hollow echo in my chest. The life I knew, the person I trusted the most, was gone. And in her place, nothing. I whispered, more to myself than to her, I don't know if I'll ever forgive this. I don't know if I'll ever move on. She didn't answer. She only walked to the door, pausing to look back once. Goodbye, Carter. The click of the door closing was louder than anything I'd ever heard. I sank to the floor, head resting against the wall, letting the reality crush me. Months of betrayal, years of trust, shattered in one sentence. One sentence. And as I sat there, trembling, I realized my world had ended that morning. The next morning, I dragged myself to work, numb and hollow. I barely slept, my mind replaying Lena's words over and over. Richard. Divorce. Gone. I'd lost my wife, my life, and now I walked through the office like a ghost, invisible and broken. Morning, Carter, Maya said softly as I passed. Her eyes were sympathetic, but she didn't stop me. I muttered a morning and kept moving, clutching my briefcase like it was a lifeline. Richard's office door was closed. I knocked lightly. Richard, you wanted to see me? Come in, he said, voice flat, almost distant. He didn't look up immediately, just shuffled papers across his desk. I stepped inside. Everything okay? I asked, trying to sound casual, though my heart was hammering. He looked up slowly, expression unreadable. Sit down, Carter. I obeyed, sinking into the chair opposite him. Silence stretched like a heavy chain between us. Carter. I'm going to be direct. I braced myself. Okay. He leaned back, hands folded. We're restructuring. Your position, it's being terminated, effective immediately. I blinked. The words echoed in my brain. Terminated? I asked, voice tight. But why? I've been working my ass off for you. I've given everything. Stop, he interrupted, calm but cold. This isn't personal. It's business. You've been with us a long time, but your role is redundant now. HR will give you your severance package. I laughed bitterly. Not personal? You betrayed me, Richard. My wife, everything I built, and now you fire me like a goddamn invoice? He raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry you feel that way. But this is the way it has to be. I stood abruptly. The way it has to be? You knew what I sacrificed. You knew I worked for this company like it was my life. And you just erase me? Carter, I value your contributions, he said smoothly. But the decision stands. There's nothing more to discuss. I felt my knees weaken. Nothing more to discuss? I shouted. You, of all people, knew my loyalty. My life has been devoted to this place, and to you. He shrugged. Loyalty doesn't guarantee immunity. I wish you the best, truly. I clenched my fists, fury mixing with heartbreak. The best? You and Lena, you both took everything from me. And now you hand me a pink slip as if I'm worthless? Maya stepped in cautiously. Carter, please. Let's try to stay calm. HR will handle everything. I turned to her, eyes blazing. Calm? You think I can be calm after being blindsided by the two people I trusted most? She hesitated, then looked down. I understand, Carter. I really do. But there's nothing I can do. I stormed out of the office, grabbing my personal items in silence. Every step echoed in the empty hallway. Each picture, each certificate on the wall, each desk item felt like a monument to betrayal. I shoved them into my box with trembling hands. As I walked past the empty cubicles, whispers followed me. I could hear some of the staff murmuring, some avoiding my gaze. Even the interns looked uncomfortable. It wasn't just Richard or Lena, it felt like the entire world had turned against me. I passed the window, staring down at the city below. It felt surreal. The life I had built, my work, my home, my identity, slipping through my fingers. And all I could do was carry a box full of remnants and walk out, head held high in appearance, broken in reality. I reached the lobby, heart hammering. The receptionist looked up and offered a polite smile. Take care, Carter. I nodded without speaking, stepping outside. The cold air hit my face, but it didn't help. It didn't wake me up. It didn't make the betrayal any less sharp, the loneliness any less suffocating. I got into my car and sat there, gripping the steering wheel. I tried to focus on breathing. 1, 2, 3, but the weight in my chest didn't ease. I wanted to scream. I wanted to crash the car into something, anything. I wanted revenge, I wanted justice, I wanted Lena back. Instead, I drove aimlessly, ending up at a small diner I used to visit with Lena. I sat in a booth by the window, staring at the empty streets. My phone buzzed, it was Lena. My chest tightened. I ignored it, then quickly silenced it. A voice behind me startled me. Carter? I turned. Ethan, my old friend and former coworker, stood there, hands stuffed into his jacket pockets. "Hey, mind if I join you?" I shook my head. "Go ahead." He slid into the booth across from me. "Heard about the firing. Thought I should check on you." I laughed bitterly. "Check on me? You think I need sympathy?" My life just collapsed, Ethan. My wife cheated on me with my boss, and now he fires me like I'm trash. You think a cup of coffee fixes that? Ethan didn't flinch. "No, I don't. But sometimes it helps to have someone listen." I ran my hands through my hair. "Listen? Listen to what? That I've been betrayed? That the people I trusted the most are gone? That my career and my marriage are over? That I feel invisible, worthless, like I never existed?" He leaned back. "Yeah. I think I can listen to that." I exhaled sharply. You know, I thought I could rely on people. I thought loyalty meant something. I thought Richard was like a brother to me. I thought Lena was my partner in life. And now I have nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ethan nodded slowly. You have your mind. You have your skills. You have your integrity. They can't take that. I shook my head. Integrity? What good is integrity when it doesn't save you from betrayal? When it doesn't save your marriage or your job? He paused, choosing words carefully. It might not save you today, but it will save you tomorrow. And the day after. You're stronger than you think, Carter. I looked at him, eyes hollow. Stronger? I feel broken. You feel broken because you care. Because you gave everything. But that's also proof that you're alive. That you have a heart. And that same heart, it will make you rise again. I stared down at my hands. Rise again? Ethan. I don't even know who I am anymore. I look in the mirror, and I see a man betrayed, replaced, erased. I'm a ghost. You're not a ghost. You're a fighter. Trust me. I let out a bitter laugh. A fighter? I can barely stand. I can barely think straight. And they smile, like nothing happened. Lena, Richard, like I was never here. Ethan leaned forward. Maybe. But that's their mistake, Carter. You're still here. You're still breathing. And breathing means there's a chance to take it back. To reclaim what's yours. I stared at him, the anger and grief mixing. Part of me wanted to punch the table. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to scream into the empty diner. But a small spark flickered deep inside, beneath the weight of betrayal. Reclaim, I muttered. The word felt foreign but promising. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah. Reclaim. But first, survive. One day at a time. I nodded slowly, swallowing the lump in my throat. One day at a time, I repeated, almost as a mantra. I left the diner, walking into the evening air. Cold, unforgiving, sharp. But I walked, and for the first time that day, I felt a small glimmer of something. Not hope. Not relief. But a spark. Richard thought he erased me. Lena thought she broke me. But as I gripped the straps of my empty briefcase, I promised myself silently, I'm not done yet. Not even close. The apartment felt smaller than ever. The walls pressed in, the silence screaming louder than any argument could. I hadn't spoken to Lena since that morning, hadn't answered Richard's messages. I didn't want to hear their voices, didn't want to see the world spinning around me while mine had stopped. A knock at the door startled me. "I know you're in there, Carter." "Open up," came Ethan's voice. I groaned and pulled the door open just enough to peek. "Ethan, now?" "You don't have a choice," he said firmly, stepping inside anyway. "You're not allowed to sit here and rot." I let him in, slumping onto the couch. "I'm fine. I'm surviving." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Surviving? That looks more like drowning." I laughed bitterly. "Drowning feels better. At least water doesn't lie to you." "You want to talk?" he asked quietly, sitting opposite me. I shook my head. "There's nothing to talk about. My wife is gone. My boss betrayed me. Everyone else, they pretend I don't exist. What's left to discuss?" "Everything," Ethan said. "You just don't see it yet." I stared at him. "Everything? Do you know what it feels like to have your entire life ripped from you? To find out the people you trusted more than yourself, your wife, your mentor, they both threw you away? Do you?" "I can't imagine, Carter," he admitted. "But I can see you. And I can tell you this, the man they betrayed isn't gone. He's right here, under all that anger and heartbreak. That's the man who will rise." I rubbed my temples. Rise? I can barely get out of bed without feeling like my chest is full of knives. I feel hollow. Ethan leaned forward. Hollow doesn't mean broken beyond repair. Hollow means there's space to rebuild. To focus. To plan. I swallowed hard. Plan what? Revenge? I don't even know if I have the energy to hate them. Lena. Richard, they think I'm nothing. You're not nothing, he said firmly. You're everything they underestimated. You just need to remember it. I exhaled slowly. I keep thinking about those months I gave them. Every late night, every skipped dinner, every time I ignored myself to keep Richard happy. And Lena. God, Lena. How could she do that to me? She didn't define your worth, Ethan reminded me. You defined it yourself. And you're still standing. That counts for something. I shook my head. Standing feels like survival, not victory. It feels like punishment. Maybe, he said. But sometimes punishment teaches you what you're capable of. Sometimes it shows you who you really are. I looked down at my hands, scarred from too many late-night deadlines and stress. Who I really am. Right now, I feel like a man who's been erased. Like the world moved on without me. Like I don't exist. You exist, Ethan said quietly. And you have proof. All those projects, all those documents, the work you did, it's still there. You made a mark. They can't erase that. I thought about it. My work had built the company, my systems had kept it running. Richard couldn't have done it without me. Could he? The thought gave me a flicker of strength. Maybe, I muttered. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not as invisible as I feel. You're not, Ethan said, nodding. But you need perspective. You need to step back, breathe, and see the bigger picture. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Perspective, yeah. The bigger picture. Right now all I see is betrayal. Anger. Loss. Pain. You will, he said. But first, you need to survive today. One day at a time. And tonight, we start talking about how you take back what's yours. I blinked, unsure. Take back what's mine. Everything they took from you, Ethan said. Your dignity, your power, your life. They think they've won. But they haven't even scratched the surface of what you're capable of. I shook my head. I don't know if I can do it. I don't even know where to start. I feel empty. Empty is good, he said, smiling faintly. Empty means there's room to grow. Room to think clearly. Room to act without distraction. Use it. I stared at him. The idea seemed foreign. Rebuilding, taking back control, fighting, it felt like a fantasy. But deep down, a small spark of determination stirred. A quiet voice whispered, "They can't break me." Not completely. And Lena? I asked quietly. Do you think about her? Ethan paused. I do. But you shouldn't let her be your focus. Right now, it's about you. You. Your mind. Your future. Everything else comes later. I sighed. I keep replaying her face. The calm way she told me. The way she looked at me like I was already gone. I can't get it out of my head. You don't have to forget, Ethan said. You just have to decide what it means for you. Does it destroy you, or does it fuel you? I clenched my fists. Fuel me. I guess. I don't know if I have the energy yet. But maybe. Maybe is a start, he said. We'll begin there. Small steps. First, survive. Then, plan. Then, action. I nodded slowly, feeling the tiniest sense of control returning. The hollow inside me didn't vanish, but it shifted. From emptiness to possibility. From despair to calculation. I still hate them, I admitted softly. I hate Richard. I hate Lena. But I don't want to lose myself to hate. You won't, Ethan said. You'll channel it. That's how people survive betrayals like this. That's how they rise. I looked out the window at the night sky, city lights flickering. Rise, yeah. Maybe. I'll start with surviving tonight. Then we'll see. Ethan clapped my shoulder. Good. That's all for now. Step 1. You're stronger than you think. Trust me. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and resolve. I sank back into the couch, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was still small. The silence was still deafening. But for the first time in days, I felt something other than despair. A flicker of purpose. Tomorrow, I whispered to myself, voice low but firm. Tomorrow. I start taking it back. And in that moment, I realized, rock bottom had a sound. Not silence. Not emptiness. It was the quiet heartbeat of someone who refused to stay down. And mine was louder than I thought. I sat at my cheap kitchen table, staring at the pile of old emails and spreadsheets I had salvaged from my office before being escorted out. Every number, every memo, every project I'd poured years into reminded me of what I had built, and what Richard and Lena had tried to erase. Ethan slid into the chair across from me, coffee in hand. So, you've had time to think? I shook my head. Thinking isn't enough. I can't just sit here and survive forever. I need something more. But I don't even know where to start. He leaned forward, voice low. You already know where to start. You've got proof. You've got knowledge. You've got skill. Richard and Lena underestimated you, Carter. That's your advantage. I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I want justice. I want balance. I want them to feel the weight of what they took from me without losing myself in bitterness. That's smart, Ethan said. But you need a plan. And plans need steps. I rubbed my temples. Step 1, survive. Step 2, reclaim what's mine. Step 3. He smiled faintly. Step 3 is the fun part. Watching the pieces fall into place. I laughed bitterly. Fun? You mean the moment Richard realizes he can't control anything anymore, while Lena finally sees what she threw away? Exactly, he said. But you get there one step at a time. First, we focus on the company. I froze. The company? That place. Richard thinks he owns it. He thinks firing me erased me. He doesn't even realize I had silent control over key systems. The investors, the clients. I built loyalty with them. I still have leverage. Ethan nodded. There you go. That's the spark. You're not powerless. You just need to use it. I leaned back, thinking. Months of betrayal, nights of heartbreak, years of loyalty, I had a choice. I could sink into despair, let them win, or I could act. And for the first time since Lena's confession, I felt clarity. You know what I hate? I asked, voice low. Not just the betrayal. It's the smugness. Richard's face when he fired me. Lena's calm, distant look when she said she was leaving. They think they're untouchable. They are untouchable only if you let them be, Ethan said. But you don't. You take control. That's your choice. I stared at the emails, documents, and spreadsheets. Every late night, every system I designed, every client I nurtured, they were my arsenal. My mind raced with possibilities. I can't do it emotionally, I said. I can't just storm in, accuse them, and scream. I need precision. Silence. Patience. A quiet takeover. That's smart, Ethan said approvingly. You don't want to make noise. You want them to think everything is fine while you quietly regain control. By the time they realize what's happening, it's too late. I nodded slowly, feeling my chest tighten, not with fear, but anticipation. And Lena? Richard? I don't need to humiliate them, do I? I just reclaim what's mine. Exactly, Ethan said. They'll feel the consequences without you stooping to their level. Karma, served cleanly. I exhaled, heart pounding. I need to meet with someone, an investor. Someone who knows the company's value, someone Richard underestimated. Someone who can quietly support me without alerting him. Ethan's eyes lit up. Mr. Caldwell. The one who pulled out years ago because Richard sidelined him. He still believes in your vision. He could be our entry point. I smiled faintly. Caldwell, yes. He trusts me. I'll reach out tonight. Carefully. No mistakes. Good, Ethan said. We don't have time to waste. Richard thinks he's untouchable. Lena thinks she has control. Both are wrong. That's our leverage. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over my keyboard. The emails reminded me of every sacrifice. Every skipped dinner. Every night I spent building the company while Richard smiled and praised me. And now it's my turn. Carter, Ethan said, his voice firm, this isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming your life. Your dignity. Your power. Don't forget that. I clenched my fists. I won't. I've been too passive for too long. Too loyal. I let them take advantage. I trusted them blindly. But no more. He leaned back. Patience and strategy. That's your weapon. Not rage. Not shouting. Not confrontation. Quiet, deliberate action. Every move counts. I nodded. I'll need to be invisible at first. Collect information. Reconnect with old contacts. Build alliances quietly. No one suspects me now. That's my advantage. Ethan smirked. Exactly. Let them walk around thinking they won while you prepare the final act. When it comes, it'll be undeniable. I thought about Richard, sitting behind his polished desk, unaware that the very systems he depended on had my fingerprints all over them. I thought about Lena, confident in her choice, blind to the consequences waiting for her. My chest tightened with a strange mix of anger and focus. I need to prepare for patience, I muttered. Patience and calm. No mistakes. Every step calculated. That's right, Ethan said. You control the pace. You control the outcome. And when it's time, you act, and you win. I leaned back, eyes scanning the spreadsheets. My mind worked like a machine, organizing, strategizing, planning. The rage was still there, yes, but it had become fuel. Controlled, precise, deadly fuel. And if I fail? I asked quietly. Ethan's eyes locked with mine. You won't fail. Not if you stay disciplined. Not if you focus. You're stronger than you realize. You've survived betrayal, loss, and humiliation. That proves it. You're ready. I exhaled slowly. The words sank in. Ready. Not just to survive, but to reclaim. To take back what was mine. To prove, without screaming, without violence, that I wasn't a man to be erased. I'll start tonight, I said, voice low but firm. First, Caldwell. Then, the company. Every move silent, deliberate. They won't see it coming. Ethan nodded. Exactly. And when it happens, it'll be satisfying. Not for revenge's sake, but for justice. For balance. I looked at him, eyes hard. Justice. Balance. That's what I want. Not revenge, not humiliation. Just restoring what's mine. That's the difference between you and them, Ethan said. They act out of selfishness. You act out of strategy. That's why you'll win. I exhaled, feeling a weight lift. The anger, the heartbreak, the betrayal, they hadn't disappeared, but they were tools now. Fuel for action. Tonight, I whispered to myself, I begin the first step. I survive. I plan. I reclaim. Ethan smiled faintly. That's the spirit. One choice. One step. That's all it takes to start changing everything. I stared at the documents again, fingers brushing over the keys. Every system I had built, every connection I had made, every investor I had nurtured, they were all mine to leverage. Richard thought he could erase me. Lena thought she could take everything. Both were wrong. I felt a fire ignite in my chest, small but fierce. A determination that had nothing to do with hate and everything to do with reclaiming control. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't a victim. I wasn't powerless. I was a strategist, a survivor, a man about to make a choice that would change everything. The room felt smaller, tighter, suffocating no more. The spark of purpose spread through me, quiet but unstoppable. I exhaled, letting it settle. I choose to rise. I choose to act. I choose to take back what is mine. And just like that, the first move had been made. The next few days were a blur of planning, calls, and quiet observation. I stayed out of Richard's sight, out of Lena's reach, blending into the background while I rebuilt my power piece by piece. Each email I sent, each investor I contacted, was a silent strike. They didn't know I was moving, but karma moves quietly. I sat at my laptop late one night when Ethan called. Caldwell responded, he said, voice low but excited. I leaned back, heart pounding. What did he say? He's willing to meet. Wants to hear your proposal. Quietly. No Richard, no HR. Just you and him. I exhaled slowly. Perfect. That's step one. Quiet. No mistakes. You've got this, Carter, Ethan said. Just remember, patience. Precision. Control. I nodded, staring at the screen. Every word I typed, every document I attached, was calculated. I wasn't just reaching out, I was reclaiming what was mine. Richard had underestimated me. Lena had underestimated me. They would both pay, quietly, for their arrogance. The next morning, I walked into a small cafe where Caldwell agreed to meet. The place was empty except for a few early risers. Caldwell stood as I approached, extending his hand. Carter, he said, smile faint. It's been a while. Too long, I replied, shaking his hand firmly. Thanks for meeting me. Of course. I've been following your career, even after leaving the company. You've always had a talent for strategy. I've missed seeing it applied. I leaned back, masking the tension coiling in my chest. Thank you. I've been in transition recently. But I think now is the perfect time to talk about the future. Caldwell raised an eyebrow. Go on. I opened my laptop, showing projections, client lists, and operational improvements I had designed during my tenure. These are the assets, the relationships, and the strategies I've built. Richard may have a title, but the real control, the real value, is here. Caldwell leaned closer, scanning the documents. Impressive. You kept these under the radar? I had to, I said quietly. Richard doesn't realize how much of the company runs because of what I put in place. Neither does Lena. But it's all here. And it's ready. He looked at me, eyes sharp. And you want control, I said firmly. Not for ego. Not for revenge. For justice. For balance. The company, the clients, the projects, they're mine to safeguard. Richard has proven he can't handle them. I can. And I will. Caldwell studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You've got my support. Quietly, behind the scenes. Richard will never see it coming. A thrill ran through me. Step 1, completed. Patience and strategy were paying off. I hadn't lifted a hand in anger, hadn't spoken a word of confrontation, but already, karma was moving. Back at my apartment, I allowed myself a small smile. Ethan leaned against the counter. Step 1. Done. And they still don't know. I nodded, sipping my coffee. They think they're untouchable. They think I'm broken. They don't even realize the pieces are being moved. Quietly. Slowly. Perfectly. Ethan chuckled. It's delicious, isn't it? Watching the inevitable unfold without them knowing. I smiled faintly. delicious and satisfying. But I can't rush it. Patience. Days passed. Richard strutted through the office as usual, unaware that I had quietly rebuilt alliances. He sent Lena texts, called clients, flaunted his control. Lena responded, of course, full of false confidence, convinced she had chosen the winning side. One afternoon, I decided to test the waters. I called an old client who had always been loyal to me personally. "Carter," the client said, surprised. "I haven't heard from you in months." "Busy," I replied smoothly. "But I wanted to touch base. Some things are changing at the company, and I wanted to make sure you have the right contact moving forward." "Oh," the client asked, interest piqued. "Yes," I said. "Richard may have the title, but I've been managing the operations for years. I want to ensure a smooth transition. Your account, your needs, they'll remain a priority." There was a pause. "I see. Well, Carter, I trust you. Let's meet. I want to hear your plan." I smiled to myself, quietly, savoring the moment. Richard didn't know. Lena didn't know. But I was taking control, step by step. Karma, quietly, was beginning to speak. That evening, Ethan and I reviewed the progress. "They still don't suspect a thing," I said, leaning back. "Richard walks around like a king. Lena floats through her new life believing she's won. But they're wrong. They always underestimate you," Ethan said. "And that's their downfall." I rubbed my hands together. Step 2 is coming. Once the clients and investors are aligned, the power shift will be undeniable. Richard will realize too late that he's lost control. Lena will realize too late that she made a mistake. Quietly. Perfectly. Ethan smirked. "You've got patience, strategy, and skill. The best kind of revenge is the one that doesn't look like revenge." I nodded. Exactly. Karma doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need to call attention to itself. It moves quietly, and when it arrives, it's absolute. The next morning, I got a message from Caldwell confirming a private meeting with key investors. My chest tightened with anticipation. Step 2 was almost ready. Richard had no idea how fragile his position had become. Lena had no idea how little control she actually had. I walked to the window, staring at the city below. The streets seemed empty, ordinary, unaware of the storm brewing in the boardrooms above. And I realized something. I wasn't just acting for myself anymore. I was acting for every moment I had been betrayed, for every late night, every missed birthday, every sacrifice ignored. Karma moves quietly, I whispered to myself. And I am its instrument. Ethan joined me silently. Quietly, precisely. That's how it works. One move at a time, Carter. One move at a time. I nodded. And when the moment comes, the outcome will be undeniable. They won't see it coming. And they'll feel every consequence of their choices, without me raising a finger. Ethan smiled faintly. That's the power of strategy. That's the power of patience. And that's why you'll win. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. The anger and betrayal were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but they had been transformed into something useful, something unstoppable. I see it now, I said quietly. I can rebuild. I can reclaim. I can control the outcome. And they will learn, too late, that they misjudged me. Ethan nodded. Exactly. Step 3 is coming. But for now, watch, plan, and prepare. Every silent move is a victory. I smiled faintly, heart steady for the first time in days. Every move is a victory, I repeated. And I meant it. Richard and Lena believed they had one. But the truth is, they had already set the stage for their own downfall. Karma, quietly, was already in motion. And I was its conductor. The morning air was crisp as I parked outside the building. My hands were steady, my chest calm, though the storm of months past still lingered inside me. Today, I was stepping back into the world I had been ripped from. The office. Richard's domain. Lena's new life. All of it. Ethan leaned over, voice low. Ready? I nodded, gripping the strap of my bag. As ready as I'll ever be. Quiet, deliberate, invisible, until it's time to act. Exactly, he said. Remember, patience. Strategy. Control. They won't see a thing. I smiled faintly, letting the calm mask the fire inside me. Months of planning, calls, and silent alliances had led to this moment. Richard thought he'd won. Lena thought she'd escaped. Neither realized I was already everywhere, quietly reclaiming my power. The lobby was bustling, employees murmuring and moving about. Richard wasn't there yet. I walked through casually, nodding to familiar faces who blinked in recognition but said nothing. That was the advantage, being underestimated. As I reached the elevator, a voice called out behind me. Carter? I turned. Lena. She was radiant, dressed perfectly, hair in place, smiling as if nothing had ever happened. My stomach twisted, but I didn't show it. I nodded politely. Lena, I said, voice steady. It's been a while. It has, she said, eyes flicking over me, just enough to catch the faint shadow of determination I carried. I didn't expect to see you here. Neither did I expect to be back so soon, I said lightly, letting the words mask everything beneath. But business calls. She studied me, brow furrowed. Business? Exactly, I replied. Just business. We rode the elevator in silence, tension crackling between us. I didn't need to say more. She knew. And Richard, he would find out soon enough. When I stepped out, the floor buzzed with activity. My name circulated quietly as I passed, whispers of my return spreading. Employees who had been loyal to me months ago nodded subtly, discreet smiles acknowledging the unseen shift in control. Richard's office door opened, and he stepped out, briefcase in hand. His eyes widened when he saw me. Carter, he said, trying to sound casual. I didn't expect. Morning, Richard, I interrupted smoothly. I thought I'd drop by. See how things are going. He swallowed hard. Everything's fine. You know, just the usual. I nodded slowly, masking the satisfaction coiling in my chest. Of course. I just thought, maybe we could discuss some client portfolios, see if any adjustments are needed. Richard's eyes flickered nervously. Yes, sure. Of course. Follow me. I followed silently, letting him lead the way to the conference room. The employees gave me space, almost reverently. My presence alone shifted the atmosphere, quiet, subtle, but undeniable. Once inside, I set my bag down, opening my laptop. I've been reviewing recent reports, I said casually. Some numbers caught my attention. Nothing critical, but it's better to address issues early. Richard nodded quickly, trying to maintain control. Of course. Anything I should know about? I leaned over the screen, showing charts and projections I had created months ago, strategically built to reveal flaws only I could correct. Some accounts could be optimized. I've noted potential areas for improvement. I can handle it if you want, or we can discuss strategy. Richard blinked, hesitation flickering in his eyes. I guess we can review it together. I smiled faintly. Excellent. That's why I'm here. Just ensuring the company runs smoothly. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He couldn't. The control he thought he had was already shifting, quietly, invisibly, beneath his very nose. The door opened suddenly, and Lena stepped in, looking surprised. Carter? You're here. Yes, I said softly, voice calm. I returned to ensure everything is functioning properly. To protect what I helped build. Her expression faltered. Protect. Carter, you. Lena, I interrupted gently, letting the calm mask the storm inside. This isn't personal. Just business. She looked down, fidgeting with her hands. I didn't know you'd come back so soon. I nodded. Timing is everything. And some opportunities don't wait. Richard's face was pale now, unease creeping across it. Carter, this is unexpected. I closed my laptop slowly, meeting his gaze. Unexpected, yes. But necessary. I've been planning quietly, Richard. Every detail considered. And now, I'm here. Watching. Waiting. Ensuring balance. His hands clenched into fists. Balance? What are you talking about? Just the natural consequences of choices, I said softly. Some people underestimate loyalty, underestimate patience, underestimate the quiet power of precision. They learn, eventually. Lena's eyes widened. Carter, she whispered, voice barely audible. I didn't reply. Silence was my weapon now. Richard opened his mouth, closed it, and tried again. You can't just. I can, I said quietly, firmly. And I will. Not out of spite. Not out of revenge. But because balance needs to be restored. The room felt heavy. The employees outside sensed the tension, glancing nervously at the conference room door. Richard realized, finally, that his position was no longer untouchable. Lena realized, finally, that her choices had consequences. I leaned back slightly, letting the calm overwhelm the room. Step 1, complete, I said quietly to myself. They still don't see the depth of what's happening, but it's coming. Richard's voice shook. What are you planning? I smiled faintly, eyes cold and sharp. Nothing immediate. Just observation. Monitoring. Ensuring that the system works as it should. That the company is safe. That every choice, every betrayal, is accounted for. Lena swallowed, unable to meet my gaze. Carter. You don't need to say anything, I interrupted. Actions speak louder than words. You've already said enough. Richard's face twisted in panic, realization dawning. You're controlling the clients? The operations? How? Precisely, I said. Step 2 moves quietly, Richard. Every client, every investor, every detail I nurtured, already aligned. You were blind. Lena was blind. And now, the consequences begin. Lena whispered, voice trembling, Carter, please. I shook my head slowly, letting the calm authority settle over the room. It's too late for apologies. Too late for explanations. Now, there's only observation. Only outcomes. Only consequences. Richard's hands shook. He looked at me like a man realizing the world he built on my labor was crumbling beneath him, silently, invisibly. I closed the laptop fully and rose from my seat. "I'll be in touch," I said lightly. Quietly, efficiently, strategically. Every move calculated. Every consequence earned. Karma moves quietly. And it's already in motion. Without another word, I turned and left the room. Lena didn't follow. Richard didn't protest. The employees murmured softly behind me, acknowledging my presence but daring not to speak. Ethan met me outside, leaning casually against the wall. "Step 3, he said. "The first move." "Perfect." I nodded, taking a deep breath. "Perfect. They think I'm here for observation. They think I'm just back in the office. But every client, every connection, every move, is mine now. Karma is quiet, but absolute." "Exactly," Ethan said. "And they'll feel it soon. Without knowing you were behind it all." I exhaled slowly, a faint smile on my lips. Richard and Lena thought they had erased me. They thought they could rewrite the story. But the story was always mine to write. And now, it's just beginning. Step 1 had been executed. The quiet power shift was underway. And for the first time since Lena's confession, I felt alive, not angry, not broken, but purposeful. Karma moves quietly. And I am its instrument. The morning felt charged, like the air itself was holding its breath. I parked outside the building, heart steady, mind sharp. Months of planning, patience, and silent maneuvers had brought me here. Today wasn't just about observation, it was about the first undeniable cracks in Richard and Lena's empire. Ethan leaned against the car. "They won't see this coming. Not a single thing." I exhaled slowly. They've lived in confidence for too long. Arrogant, blind. They think loyalty and skill are meaningless. Today, they'll learn the opposite. We entered the building quietly. The employees barely looked up. Some nodded subtly, some whispered in recognition. I walked through the halls unnoticed but fully present, like a shadow they didn't realize was controlling the room. Richard appeared at the elevator bank, perfectly composed, or trying to be. His face faltered slightly when he saw me. "Carter," he said, voice controlled. "Back so soon?" "Morning, Richard," I said smoothly. "Just checking in. Making sure everything runs smoothly. You know, the usual." He hesitated. "Yes, of course." I let my smile be polite but sharp. "I'm sure you've been managing well. But I thought, it's better if I oversee a few client accounts personally, just to ensure continuity." Richard swallowed. Yes, of course. Please, go ahead." Lena appeared from the hall, radiant and confident as always. Her smile faltered when she saw me, eyes widening. "Carter, here?" "Yes," I said quietly, voice calm. "I'm here. Just making sure things are in order." She nodded slowly, avoiding my gaze. "Of course. I understand." I followed her with my eyes for a moment, then turned to Richard. "Shall we begin?" He nodded nervously. Yes, let's start." We moved to the conference room. I opened my laptop and began reviewing the client accounts, showing minor discrepancies that only I could correct. Every client I had personally nurtured over the years now silently reaffirmed their loyalty to me. Richard's hands fidgeted. I don't understand. How are these accounts? I looked up calmly. Years of work, Richard. You may have a title, but the systems, the loyalty, the real operations, have always depended on me. Every choice I make now ensures balance. Lena's voice trembled slightly. Carter, what are you doing? Protecting what is mine, I said softly, voice steady. Ensuring that the company, the clients, the projects run efficiently. That nothing is lost due to mistakes or arrogance. Richard's eyes widened. You can't. I interrupted gently. Watch, Richard. Observe quietly. This isn't personal. This is inevitable. The subtle shifts had already begun. Clients responded to my calls, emails, and guidance without Richard knowing. Investors I had aligned months ago were subtly moving their support my way. Lena didn't realize how little control she truly had. Richard didn't see the cracks forming until they were already widening. I leaned back, letting them feel the tension. Step 1, observation. Step 2, influence. And step 3, I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Consequences. Lena's voice shook. Carter, please. I didn't know. You knew enough, I said quietly. You knew what you were doing. And yet, you acted as if I would never see the outcome. Richard's face turned red with panic. Carter, this is manipulation. You can't. I smiled faintly. Manipulation? No. This is balance. This is justice. Quiet, inevitable, and precise. The client reports I shared showed profitability, operational strength, and loyalty directly tied to my work. Richard's authority, which he flaunted, was crumbling beneath him. Lena's smug confidence evaporated as she realized her influence over me and the company was gone. You can't just, Richard stammered again. I held up a hand. Silence, Richard. Let the facts speak. Let the clients, the investors, the employees, show you the truth. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. Carter. I made a mistake. I looked at her calmly, voice soft but sharp. Too late. You had your chance. You chose betrayal. You chose arrogance. Now, you'll watch the consequences unfold. Richard's face twisted. Carter, this is unfair. I shook my head slowly. Unfair? Life isn't fair, Richard. Loyalty is rare. Skill is rare. Trust is rare. And when it's abused, the consequences are inevitable. The subtle power shift had begun. Investors I had quietly contacted months ago were moving discreetly to ensure my authority in decision-making. Clients called me directly for guidance. Richard realized too late that the control he flaunted was only a facade, fragile and temporary. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Carter, please. You already said enough, I said quietly. Actions, not words, determine consequences. You will watch, and you will understand what it means to betray someone who truly trusted you. Richard's hands shook. You've taken everything. How? How is this happening? I smiled faintly. Not everything. Just what should have been yours to respect. Control, loyalty, influence, they are not inherited. They are earned. And you squandered them. Lena whispered, voice trembling, Carter, please. I didn't mean. You meant, I said softly. You chose. Every decision, every betrayal, it led to this moment. You cannot undo it. You can only face it. Richard slumped back in his chair, pale and trembling. You were. I didn't know. I leaned forward, voice calm, precise. You underestimated patience, Richard. You underestimated strategy. You underestimated the quiet power of preparation. Karma moves quietly. And it's already in motion. Lena's shoulders sagged, eyes downcast. Carter. I see that now. I nodded, voice soft but unwavering. Yes. You see it now. The consequences are not immediate, but they are inevitable. Every betrayal, every choice, will be accounted for. The employees outside murmured softly, sensing the tension in the room. They looked at me with quiet respect, acknowledging that the balance of power had shifted. Richard had been a mentor, Lena had been a partner, but neither had realized that the foundation of the company, the loyalty of clients, and the hearts of employees had always depended on me. I closed my laptop gently, voice calm. This is not a spectacle. This is not revenge. This is quiet justice. Every move I've made, every connection I've rebuilt, every client aligned, it's all in place. You've watched the first steps. The rest will follow silently. Richard's hands shook, his face pale and drawn. Carter, please. I shook my head slowly. No more words. The outcome will speak. You will witness the fall of arrogance, betrayal, and blind confidence. And you will understand, it was always inevitable. Lena whispered, almost inaudibly, Carter, forgive me. I smiled faintly, letting the calm mask the storm inside. Forgiveness is not necessary. Understanding is enough. Actions have consequences. You chose your path. Now, watch it unfold. I gathered my things, stood, and walked out of the conference room. Richard and Lena remained behind, frozen, silent, powerless. The shift had begun. Karma, quietly, inexorably, was in motion. Ethan met me outside, voice low and approving. Step 3, initiated. Perfect execution. I nodded, chest tight with controlled satisfaction. They think they're untouchable. They think they've won. But the pieces are already falling. Quietly, precisely. Perfectly. Ethan smiled. Soon, they'll realize, too late. And you'll be untouchable. I exhaled slowly, feeling a calm fury beneath the surface. The betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation had been transformed into something unstoppable. Patience, strategy, and skill had shifted the power balance silently but absolutely. Richard and Lena had thought they could erase me, control me, manipulate me. They were wrong. Completely wrong. Karma had moved quietly. And I was its instrument? The first cracks were visible now. The first consequences undeniable. The fall of the people who betrayed me had begun. And I was just getting started. The morning sunlight streamed through the office windows as I walked past familiar faces. The atmosphere felt different now, charged, respectful, cautious. Richard and Lena were already in their offices, trying desperately to act normal, but the subtle shift in energy was unmistakable. I had quietly rebuilt my alliances, regained the trust of clients, and aligned investors to my side. Today, I would take the next step, reclaim everything they had stolen from me. Ethan walked beside me, voice low. They have no idea how far this goes, do they? I shook my head. Not a clue. They still believe titles and appearances matter. They don't see that loyalty, skill, and preparation determine real control. We entered the conference room. Richard's eyes widened when he saw me. Carter. You're here again? Yes, I said smoothly, voice calm. Here to ensure the company is functioning properly. To safeguard what's valuable. That includes the clients, the projects, and the investors. Lena appeared from the hallway, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Carter, this is unexpected. Timing is everything, I said lightly. And sometimes, it's better to act quietly than to wait for mistakes. Richard's jaw tightened. You think you can just... I interrupted, voice soft but firm. Not think. I know. Every client I've nurtured, every investor I've secured, every project I've managed, is aligned. Control isn't about titles. It's about influence. And influence. I have. Lena's voice trembled. Carter, what are you planning? I let the calm mask the storm inside. Ensuring that the company is safe. That decisions are made wisely. That every choice, every consequence, reflects reality, not arrogance. Richard's hands shook. You can't just take over. That's impossible. I leaned forward, voice low and precise. Impossible? No. Just calculated. Strategic. Patient. Quiet. Every move you and Lena made in confidence, underestimated me. And that's why you've lost control. The employees outside whispered softly, sensing the tension. Their loyalty had always been quietly mine, and now it became evident. Richard and Lena realized, too late, that the power they flaunted had already shifted. I don't understand, Richard stammered. How did this happen? You forgot one thing, I said quietly. Skill. Loyalty. Preparation. You built your life on my work. My efforts. And you assumed that could be erased. You were wrong. Every connection I nurtured, every system I created, it's mine. Quietly, undeniably mine. Lena's eyes widened, tears welling. Carter. I didn't. You acted, I interrupted softly. I saw every choice. Every betrayal. Every step you took. You thought you were clever. You weren't. You underestimated patience, foresight, and determination. And now, you watch the consequences unfold. Richard's face twisted with panic. Carter, this is manipulation. You can't. Not manipulation, I said, calm and steady. Balance. Justice. The restoration of what was disrupted. You will feel the consequences of your arrogance and betrayal, but without spectacle, without chaos. Quietly. Efficiently. Precisely. I opened my laptop and began presenting the updated client accounts, investor alignments, and operational changes I had orchestrated over the past months. Every subtle adjustment strengthened my influence and weakened Richard's perceived authority. See this? I asked, pointing to a projection. These clients, which you believed loyal to you, are now fully aligned with my guidance. Every decision they make, every transaction, will reflect my oversight. You are already powerless. Richard's face went pale. You can't just, this isn't fair. I shook my head slowly. Fair doesn't exist in business, Richard. strategy, preparation, and trust determine outcomes. You betrayed both trust and skill. Now, the balance is restored. Lena whispered, voice trembling, Carter. I made a mistake. I leaned back, voice soft but cold. Yes, you did. Every betrayal, every lie, every selfish act has consequences. You've seen the first cracks. The rest unfolds quietly, inevitably, perfectly. Richard's hands shook. Carter, please. I don't understand how. I let the silence fill the room. Silence was my ally now, a tool more powerful than any argument. The shift was complete, the consequences were already moving in motion. They couldn't stop it. They could only witness it. Ethan's voice was low behind me. Every move has been calculated. Every alliance secured. They don't even know the extent of it. I smiled faintly. They won't see it coming until it's too late. And then, they will understand. I leaned over the reports again. Lena, every account you thought was under your influence is now realigned. Richard, every operational decision you flaunted is now under control. The clients, investors, employees, they are mine, quietly, efficiently. And you will feel it all, without me raising a finger. Lena's lips trembled. Carter. I see now. I underestimated. I shook my head slowly. Understanding is enough. Apologies aren't necessary. You've already spoken through your actions. The outcome is now inevitable. Richard's voice cracked. You've taken everything. How? How is this happening? Not everything, I said calmly. Only what should have been respected. Influence, trust, loyalty, those things cannot be faked. You failed to earn them. I did not. Lena whispered, voice barely audible. Carter. I understand now. I nodded. Yes. The consequences are clear. You see the power shift, the inevitable balance. Quietly, efficiently, strategically, it's already happening. Step by step, every choice you made, accounted for. Every betrayal, remembered. Richard's face was pale, his hands trembling. Carter, I underestimated. You always do, I said softly. Patience, preparation, strategy, these are not things to ignore. You believed titles and appearances mattered more than loyalty, skill, and foresight. You were wrong. And now, the fall has begun. The employees outside whispered softly, feeling the shift. The company's quiet realignment was visible in every corner. The subtle power I had regained, unnoticed by Richard and Lena, now became undeniable. I closed the laptop gently. This is not revenge. This is justice. Balance. Restoration. Every decision, every betrayal, is accounted for. The rest unfolds silently, inevitably. Richard's voice shook. Carter, please. I didn't realize. You realized enough, I said softly. The consequences are here. The shift is complete. And you will watch it happen without interference. Actions speak louder than words, and yours led to this moment. Lena whispered, almost inaudibly, Carter, forgive me. I smiled faintly, calm, precise. Forgiveness is not required. Understanding is sufficient. The rest will happen quietly, efficiently, perfectly. I gathered my things and stood, turning toward the door. Richard and Lena remained seated, silent, powerless. The subtle but undeniable shift in control had already occurred. Karma, quiet and precise, was now in motion. Ethan met me outside, voice low and approving. Everything is aligned. Perfect execution. I nodded, chest tight with satisfaction. They think they've survived. They think they have control. But every piece has been accounted for. Every choice, leading to this moment. Quiet, precise, inevitable. Ethan smiled. Soon they'll see. Too late. And you'll be untouchable. I exhaled slowly, letting the calm fury settle. The months of betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation had been transformed into patience, strategy, and skill. Every step, every alliance, every calculated move had rebuilt my influence quietly but absolutely. Richard and Lena had thought they could erase me. Control me. Humiliate me. They were wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Karma had moved quietly. And I was its instrument? The first cracks were now undeniable. The subtle realignment of power had begun. The fall of the people who betrayed me was in motion. And I was reclaiming everything I had lost. Quietly. Precisely. Perfectly.